We don't necessarily determine the yay or nay of a project because of the type of asset that it is. It used to limit, a nay might have been a geographic nay, like, oh, that's out of our market. Well, depending on the size of the project, we've now learned how to mobilize construction, beyond the Chicago market. So I don't think we're gonna, we might say no to 2 windows in a house, like my formative years in business.
Sure.
But I don't think we would say no to 150 windows in a multifamily. I don't think we'd say no to 10 units in a multifamily.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Ira Singer leads new business development, production excellence, process improvements, and trade and vendor relationships for Mosaic Construction. He's a relationship builder with over 30 years of experience, and he's renovated several different asset classes. Ira, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
The pleasure is mine. Same 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. Can you very quickly tell us, where did you start, where are you now, and how did you get there?
I started my career as a home improvement salesman for window replacement in the Chicago market. Quickly started my own company that branched into siding and roofing and other exterior renovations, which got me into the multifamily side because of our client relationships who owned multifamily operations. That really led into my general contracting dive for interior work, unit renos, amenity spaces, common areas. And that led to being a national general contractor working in commercial multifamily, cannabis, mostly in the design, build, delivery method. So that's where we are now. We're a Chicago-based contractor with reach across the country. And, we got there with a growth mindset. We got there with strategic coaching and smart partners. We got there by making mistakes and learning from them.
Right. That's fabulous. There's so much here to jump into today. Talk to us maybe just so if our listeners aren't familiar with the term, when you say design build, what is that compared to other construction methods or styles? What does that mean?
Most of the projects that your listeners are involved in, I would assume, involve a building permit. Building permits require architects' plans, in some cases engineered plans that are, through the village permit process, through the village planning. And so as a design builder, we manage the design process with our relationships with architects. So we are helping at the beginning of a project when someone is identifying an asset and they think, oh, I have to get an architect involved. And then they design it with an owner. It goes out to bid to 3 or 4 GCs. And because the contractor wasn't involved in the beginning stages, not to say that architects, aren't capable and qualified, but what happens is the constructability of the project or the cost impact of what was designed does not necessarily match up to what the owner's expectations are. So when you do design build, the contractor is leading the process. When you do design bid build, the architect is leading the process, and oftentimes it's slower, it's more costly, and there's less efficiency. So we prefer the design build methodology.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean that makes a heck of a lot of sense. And yeah, the design build versus design bid build. Yes. And I've certainly seen plenty of that where you take it to market and suddenly you're like, oh, the finishes they specified were unbelievably, more expensive than what we had budgeted or whatever it is. Lots of things, as you can speak to that better than I can. But that's fascinating. So you guys have done all classes of multifamily. You guys are doing ground up multifamily as well?
No, the ground up work we do is in our cannabis sector.
Oh.
We started our career 30 years ago as renovators. And frankly, while people are living in units or living in the building and it's being renovated as an existing asset to be upgraded is much, much more challenging and has greater skill for project management and foreseeing what could be an unknown condition. That's a much harder deployment and project to scale than out of the ground, which I won't say is like riding a tricycle with training wheels, but it's a lot easier to build out of the ground.
Right. Well, talk to us about that. What are some things when you guys go in and look at a, typical value add project, let's use multifamily in this case. What are some of the things that you typically see are complications on these projects that you help your clients kind of work around?
The earlier that we are involved in the process to understand best what the investment strategy is for the owner operator, we can be more critical of where the dollars are spent. So my eyes on a project up front might identify exterior compromise within the facade or the roof or the guttering, but the owner is looking at the inside ROI to bump rent and is only concerned about the kitchens and the bathrooms. That's not to be ignored, but
Right.
there's a holistic approach to the building. And so, our ability to come in and determine if it's a value add B to C, C to B, is it already class A and it just needs some upgraded amenities or some new amenities? If we can understand budget, timing of how long they hope to hold the asset, we can better help identify where certain monies to be spent will have the greatest impact.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Is there a price point, when you're in some of these projects where it makes sense to bring a firm like yours on? And is there a price point underneath which would you say, man, like, a project under $1 million probably isn't worth, bringing on a partner like yourself? Is there kind of some numbers around that you can speak to?
It's a very good question. We are a Chicago company, so I would say anything within 2.5 hours of the office is, I won't say $20,000 makes sense for us to go 3 hours away to Indiana.
Sure.
But, I would say a couple $100,000 within the couple hours of our office makes a ton of sense.
Right.
If you're a relationship of mine and you own assets across the country and we've done big to small together and I'm your trusted GC, I'll do anything to make sure that whatever project, not repairs, but project that you're considering is something that we can, staff up, manage, and get you over the finish line. There's no right size $1 million number that says Mosaic should be, given the opportunity because it's based on dollars. It's really relationship driven. And anything within my Midwest market, I would say, is up for grabs.
Got it. That's fabulous. Talk to us about that on the people side of this business. I mean, when you guys go to a market, you may not necessarily have all of your crews in place. Is that right? Or do you guys bring in all your crews from out of state to do these projects?
It's an excellent question. And it's a philosophy that we put in play when we started all these years ago, which is we would consider ourselves, paper generals. We do not employ direct labor in any of the trade divisions. We have 23 people on our team, but they are project managers, project coordinators, human resources, customer service, bookkeeping, et cetera. There is not anyone who wears a tool belt employed at Mosaic Construction. And so when we go to market in the Chicago market, we have lots of options for 3 or 4 carpenter companies we work with, 3 or 4 plumbing, roofing, et cetera. When we go to market in the larger scale, specifically for our cannabis work, we're talking about large size projects. We use software that allows, it's kind of like a shout out to the universe by, here's the plans, Mr. Universe, here's the scope. Who wants to sign up and say yes? And frankly, we do a good amount of chasing when we put out the plans on the bidding platform, but we vet through that bidding platform and identify the trades we're going to hire, and everyone is independent on the project. We do have some companies that have grown with us and are nationally moving with us in some of the larger trade categories, but we are very much regionalized in our construction work.
Right. No, that's fabulous. Certainly in another career, before I got into real estate, we were part of some of that as well, where we'd have some trades that followed guys like you around the country to various projects. So it was fun. But again, that was a different life for me. Let's talk about the cannabis side of this. How did you get into that? What does that look like? Just break that industry down for us. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
The Illinois market, which is where we started 6, almost 7 years ago, is, I would still say, considered in its infancy. Mm-hmm. The cannabis world has been around for decades, just based on kind of the 60s and 70s culture. But in terms of big business and multi-state operators that are in the market today across states that are either medicinal or adult use approved, we are working in the cannabis space because one of our retail strip mall clients in Chicago applied for and was awarded 3 medicinal licenses and hired us because we were working with them on a different asset class. They trusted us. They hired us to do design build of 3 dispensaries in Illinois. And from there, that company went on nationally to either acquire other licenses from existing operators or apply for new licenses in new states that were coming online state by state for medicinal, typically, purposes. And we were going with them to design build their dispensaries, cultivations, and processing centers. Then we, of course, picked up different clients within the space as we started to have a portfolio of completed projects. We identified an opportunity to rebrand. So we created a sister brand called Cannabis Facility Construction. It's cannabisfacility.net. And we have completed at this point over 75 projects in 12 states in the cannabis design build industry.
That's unbelievable. I love that. Talk to us about, grow facilities. That's something that we're seeing, a lot of the industrial warehousing and places like that turned into grow facilities. What are some of the complications or kind of things that people should be aware of when considering that?
Well, you should know that upstream of the actual construction starting is all of the zoning, and the person who is going to flip a industrial warehouse building into an indoor grow facility, they have to have a license, not for the construction, but a cannabis license within their state. And so the challenges exist within the competition to obtain the license, the jurisdiction to have zoning approval for that type of special use within their town or village. And then ultimately, it's a highly niche build to convert an existing building that's a giant warehouse that had racking systems for janitorial goods, and now it's an indoor grow facility. And so what we're typically seeing is the construction of a building within the existing shell of the warehouse building, because the plant is so sensitive, and depending on the actual grower, the cultivator, and how they like to grow their plants, because you can cook chicken 100 different ways, and depending on how you grow, you can grow the plant different ways with different HVAC systems and different indoor conditions. And so it is really built with equipment and design to maximize the harvest, which is the whole intention of having an indoor grow facility. And we are working with not only the grower, but the client, the engineering firm, and the architect to design and ultimately construct anywhere from 15,000 at the small end to 150,000 currently in terms of a warehouse conversion. And these could ultimately be 500,000 square foot indoor facilities. Think of an Amazon center of 1 million square feet becoming an indoor grow facility. We haven't seen that yet. And with the continuing conversion of states from no legality to medicinal and ultimately adult use legality, there's going to be massive amounts of construction to provide enough grow room, since we live in mostly a cold nation. You're in Tennessee. I don't know that you can grow 12 months a year outdoors based on, you get some snow there.
Right.
So the indoor grow is the ability to convert a building and understand all the technical expertise to actually carry out the construction.
Over the course of those 79 projects, or 75 or 79, what have you guys even seen change as you do project over project? What have been some things you've learned and said, hey, we're going to do that differently on the next one?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, within any construction project, I don't care if it's multifamily, single family, cannabis, commercial, doesn't matter, is the supply chain. Product availability is highly limited. And so an adept general contractor with the relationships with trade partners and suppliers needs to be able to pivot and get speed to market, because the only way that the owner operator, the license holder, is making money is growing and selling the product. And so getting to the market and getting plants growing requires understanding of where we need to make a different choice and bring in a different product solution, or a trade that is, if you're in construction right now and you're a good company, you're very busy.
Right.
because there is a shortage of labor across the country. That has always been kind of an underlying story within the construction industry, that people are going to school, but they're not going to trade school.
Right.
And so the current generation coming out is looking for jobs that may not be carpentry, plumbing, and trade. And so having trade partners that can be on site, follow the schedule, pass their inspections. We consider ourselves producer directors. We are essentially the ones holding the entire operation under our contract and our umbrella, and it's our responsibility to effectuate the work. And so giving advance notice to trades because they're compromised on other jobs, checking to see if the materials came in because they're due on the project. There's a whole nuance of efficiency that we have to own. And in cannabis, it seems to be, we're working on 25 projects right now in cannabis. You can imagine how my team is spread and how the critical mass of making sure that things stay on schedule, because there's expiration from certain jurisdictions as to when that license needs to be open and operational by. So there's a tremendous amount of niche knowledge that we have picked up over the course of the last 6 years that has built our brand and has made us a reputable company where people are finding us for these opportunities.
Is there ever consideration for you guys, because this is such a niche thing for you and you have really, figured it out? Is there ever consideration for you guys saying, hey, that's all we're going to do from this point forward?
We discussed that, internally. I have 2 business partners. The reality of how we have grown organically in 30 years is we've always been a relationship-centric business. And so our residential clients, because that's where I started, became multifamily clients because they trusted me for their outside siding window job, and they bought a multifamily and they hired us.
Right.
Same thing in my partner, who has been, 30 years like me. Clients are the reason why we're in business, and the relationship of turning down a client that would say, hey, I just bought a medical office building. Hey, I've got a multifamily asset. These are areas that we have expertise. We are, I would say, asset agnostic. We don't necessarily determine the yay or nay of a project because of the type of asset that it is. It used to a nay might have been a geographic nay, like, oh, that's out of our market. Well, depending on the size of the project, we've now learned how to mobilize construction, beyond the Chicago market. So I don't think we might say no to 2 windows in a house, like my formative years in business.
Sure.
But I don't think we would say no to 150 windows in a multifamily. I don't think we'd say no to 10 units in a multifamily.
That's fascinating. I love the way you guys take care of your clients. You define this as a relationship business, which it really is. And I just have loved learning about you guys, what you guys do in the commercial design build industry, and especially, learning about the cannabis side of things. That's certainly intriguing. Ira, let's jump here into the final 4 questions. What is one tool or resource you find you can't live without?
I'd say technology has really revolutionized our business, not just from the project management software that we use, but also our internal controls, laugh if you will, but Teams, and more specifically, Teams chat. We're a chatting group these days. So texting is fine, but my team is doing much more efficient communication by chatting Teams. And so technology for us shortens the distance that we're working geographically, handles more data faster, and it's trackable. And so I would say technology is a resource that my company at this point cannot live without.
Right. That's fantastic. If you could help our listeners avoid one mistake in real estate, what would it be and how would you avoid it?
This is a layup. It's hire the right general contractor, bring them on early, right. Prefer a design build methodology so there can be partnership is kind of where we land. We are not your partners in buying the asset, but if your contractor becomes your enemy and the guy that you can't stand to hear from, you've got the wrong general contractor. We have been fortunate to be rehired over and over by our clients because good communication, having a partnership mindset where we are investors And we understand your investment strategy. We want to make your asset land exactly where you planned it to be. And we can either be the greatest success to that happening or the log jam that prevents it from happening.
Right, man, you said it. That's we've seen it way too many times where the log jam is what it becomes. So that's fantastic. I love that. Question number 3, when it comes to investing in the world, what's one thing you're doing right now to make the world a better place?
Be of service. I am fortunate to have been involved and shown at a young age, giving back, nonprofit leadership. I currently serve on a few boards, as do my business partners. We've been a longstanding donation source for lots of local charities. It's highlighted on our website. It's an important piece of who we are as people. And so by being of service to others, I help the greater world.
That's fantastic. Ira, if our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Well, email is going to certainly put you right in front of me. Ira, I-R-A, at mosaicconstruction.net. And then you can come to our website, mosaicconstruction.net, and get in touch with me. I'm happy. The reality is that hiring a GC is intimidating. People who are, I've listened to some of your podcasts, and you've got some people that own, 15 doors. They have 15 houses and they're for rent. They're a small business owner and they're making their way through. You hire the wrong general contractor, or you are looking at an asset and you don't know where to go, what the costs are. You can all of a sudden your pro forma is upside down because there's an oops that you didn't account for.
Right.
So, getting in touch, a question is free. I'm available. If you want to, tee up a question, tell me about a situation that you're considering. There's a construction impact. I'm happy to be of service.
Wonderful. Ira, thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam.
Hey, thanks for listening to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate podcast. If you can do me a favor and subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever platform it is you use to listen, if you can do that for us, that would be a fantastic help to the show. It helps us both attract new listeners as well as rank higher on those directories. So appreciate you listening. Thanks so much, and hope to catch you on the next episode.